Good morning,
Morning.
and welcome to 100 Hour Launchpad. Before we get started, as you can see, I am wearing all white today. I make it a tradition for 100 Hour Launchpad. This is to honor our frontliners, um, our medical doctors, our nurses, our healthcare staff in Manila, of course, all over the world. We spend a few precious moments of silence to remember them. And to remember, ladies and gentlemen, that we have our own battles to fight. We have our own roles to fight in this global pandemic. So again, I welcome you to Launchpad. I want to recognize my colleague, Miguel Arenas. Miguel, if you could say hello.
Hello. Good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
So it is 10:01. Ignite 100 Launchpad is quite simply a methodology that our team has been practicing year-round that we now want to share with you. And the objective is to be able to launch breakthrough solutions in 100 hours or less. So this will be very applied. We will be taking up case studies, and our desire is actually to take up case studies coming from you. So in a little while, we will open up the floor so you can give us your problems that might lend themselves to the 100 hour launchpad methodology. For now, it is 10:02. We will spend up to 10:10 a.m. before we launch anything. Let us take a diagnostic, if you will, of where we are right now in our capabilities to launch and to grow our businesses. So if I may invite you, I will guide you through my voice. We will also go on a screencast so you can follow visually. You will need a device for this. Could be the webcast device that you are on right now, or another device, a phone. If we could start the screencast, please. So you want to launch a window, and in the URL, if you could type in 100, I am Iggy.app, as you see on screen. I am Iggy, double G, Y.app. You will enter Ignite Growth Labs, and then you will have options to continue via Facebook, which would be the easiest option, or to sign up via email. This will be very quick. Ladies and gentlemen, this would be a very important step as we go through this journey of launching solutions fast. We hope that this will be an ongoing journey. So as we are completing the login, okay, those of you who are logged in already, we want you to go to stop number one, and go ahead and take that 3-minute intake while our screen catches up. Here you go, going with the Facebook option. So you will see number one, stop number one, growth quotient. If you could go into that and launch right into the calculator, put in your organization's name. This is all private for you, by the way. Only you can see your screens. So please go ahead and you will see the intake form. Just a note, you are selecting statements here that best describe your organization or your team, not yourself. So please go ahead. And we will give ourselves up to 10 10 a.m. to complete this. It is currently 10:05 a.m. So this is a measure of what we call in Ignite the four growth streams, or 4GS. So these are the four primary drivers of growth in any capacity. And of course, when we are talking about launching solutions, launching breakthroughs in 100 hours or less, it is about growth. These are more holistic measures of growth that, while we identify them as four different growth streams, they do thread together as a single growth stream, driving your overall capacity for growth. So when you are done, you can go ahead and click next, and we will wait until we still have 4 minutes. It'll also give people who are coming in late, we welcome you, and we remind you to please go to your phones. You can see the URL there. Launch a window, iamiggy.app. That's Iggy with a double G, iamiggy.app. And you will be asked to log in via Facebook or setting up an email. It'll be very quick. And then there is a 3-minute intake form that measures your 4 growth streams, 2 of which, ladies and gentlemen, we will be using today. The focal point of launching breakthrough solutions will be 2 out of these 4 growth streams. So we just want you to take this diagnostic as a launchpad for your own launchpad. So we will go on until 10:10, about 3 more minutes, 10:10 a.m. So you want to do stop number 1, only stop number 1. Of course, the rest of you who are waiting, you should feel free to look at the other stops, although they are not going to be relevant in today's session. You are in the iamiggy.app, which is a companion app among many other apps that we use in Ignite to help leaders grow by outputting solutions. Okay. We have, I believe, 2 more minutes left. I'm going to rattle off some of our later friends who've come in. JP Prado, Justin Sumulong, Kristen Mariano, Mitch Avila, Millie De Luna, Reb, Shaira Belio, Stevie Del Rosario, couple of unknowns, Yas Galang, Zine Villonco, Vicente Jaime Constantino, Karen Michelle Lopez, Jet Paulo Silva, Grace Cagastian, Gerald Origenes. Welcome everyone. And I apologize if I was not able to call you by name. All right, so we have a minute left. You're wrapping up. This is a special 2-hour run of Launchpad, by the way. Usually we do this for an hour. And we're really excited today. It's going to be an interesting format, primarily because it's going to be your problems that we're going to be working on. All right, so we are at 10:10 a.m. We're ready to go to the next step. May I invite you to go to stop number 4. There's 2 and 3, which you will skip because they are not relevant to today's experience. Go to stop number 4, data is beautiful, as you can see on screen. All right, so what you see on screen, on our screen, Webcast, the numbers 14.4%, 9.6%, 14.4%, and 14.40% for a total 4GS score of, I'm not able to see it on my screen, 13.2%. So you should see your own scores as a reflection of your diagnostic for your own companies, for your own organizations. So as you can see, there are 4 growth streams which consolidate into a single 4GS growth stream. And what we're going to be focusing on today is the red line, which is ChiX, and the lavender line, which is InnoX. So ChiX and InnoX measure our organization and our team's capabilities to do 2 crucial things in driving 100-hour breakthroughs. No? The first, ChiX, really measures our ability to do problem discovery. Okay, and you will see the subsidiary steps very specific that go into the methodology of problem discovery. And this is crucial because in order to launch breakthrough solutions, we have to be channeling and directing ourselves at the right problems. This is a step that very often people skip, teams skip, even the smartest of them, because of the purple line or the lavender line, which is InnoX. InnoX, in contrast to ChiX, which is problem discovery, InnoX is about problem solving. And very often, we are all excited to launch into this idea or that idea. Uber is doing it, why don't we do this? They're doing this in New York, why don't we do this here? So we have a lot of ideas and we're very excited about problem solving. And yes, of course, these methodologies are fundamental and critical to launching solutions fast, but not at the expense of doing ChiX first, which is focusing our energies on problem discovery. So if you will, we're going to get started on 100-hour Launchpad. Towards the end of this show, by the way, for the those of us who were able to take the diagnostic, we will show you a consolidated data or scorecard on all of us and what our consolidated score is. Right now, I want to turn it over to Miguel, who will start us on a screencast, giving us the basic framework of 100-hour Launchpad. Bear with us. This is going to be frameworky for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll launch right into stories and examples to make this very grounded for all of you. So Miguel, please.
All right. Thanks, Andre. So let me just put up the screen. Okay, so if you remember, well, 2 days ago we ran you through our PDF version of this app. So right now we have a demoware version that we're gonna show you, just to give you an idea of how you can use this this tool for the work that you do. Is the screen shown? Do you all see it? Okay, all right. So I did the first 2 steps already, which are basically project impact and inviting collaborators. And this is really just some administrative stuff. That's why we've only allotted about 1 minute for each. So specifically for this project, we're looking at a clothes retailer. This basically is how it looks in terms of the steps that we have here. So the third stop over here is a zero in on the target stakeholders. You'll notice over here that we have these 3 subsections, specifically solo workout, peer exchange, and iterated response. We'll be going deeply into that a little later. But just to give you an idea, as Andre mentioned, we usually start things off with a what we've called problem discovery. It's basically how do we find the problems that are actually worth solving for us? And stops 3, 4, and 5 actually will guide us through that.
Miguel,
Yeah, Andre.
Miguel, if I may, if you look at from the start, so there are 10 stops all in all. Let's start with project impact is our way of launching a project. And later on, even though Miguel has completed it already, we'll take you through what that looks like, because we've gotten rid of all the friction and made it so, for example, you don't have to create accounts necessarily per company. So we've made that very fast. And then culminating through step 10, which is initiating the launch sequence. And as you can see, if all of that tallies into 100 hours, more or less, it's not meant to be taken literally. No? The point here is to move fast. So by way of taking you through the framework, Miguel, why don't we take them through our own story of how we launched this particular project by going through these steps. So let me start that by rewinding us back, ladies and gentlemen. Follow me here, visualize a journey back in time to 2 weeks ago. Today is Thursday, so exactly 2 Thursdays ago, exactly at this time, the whole Ignite team, about 30 of us, was in Tali Beach. We were in Miguel's house, and we need the screencast, please, Miguel, because I'm going to take them through the outline.
Okay.
No? Please. So we were in a 3-day strategic planning. We were finishing up our Q1 review, and we were then looking forward to Q2, doing strategic planning. So we had spent day 1, all of Wednesday, firming up and being very clear as a team what our strategy was. Certain iterations, very clear. So by the end of day 1, Wednesday, we were then looking forward to day 2, Thursday, translating the strategic plan into now Q2, second quarter KPIs. No? And that cascading all the accountabilities down to each member of our team. That was supposed to be what Thursday was. But as Wednesday morphed into Thursday, as I woke up, I made the discernment. Bear in mind, if you remember, 2 Thursdays ago, about 9 to 10 in the evening, was when President Duterte first announced the community quarantine, which eventually, a day or two or a few days later, became the enhanced community quarantine that has become the reality of our lives today. So may I ask our admin's crew, Ken, to please shift the view of me to a front view, because I see a side view right now. That's a different camera. If we could do that, please. Now, so we made a first tactical shift on Thursday morning. What we did, instead of doing KPIs, we said, okay, team, we don't live in a normal world anymore. The world as we know it is about to change. So we have got to spend all of today and the rest of this 2 days, going on to Friday, figuring out how we're going to pivot in order to stay very relevant to our target audience. And in our case, our target audience was corporate leaders, especially the top 3 layers of big corporations. So from CEO to the executive committee to the 1 downs and 2 downs. These are particularly the people for whom our solutions are developed, and of course their teams. No? So we went through this, and Miguel, I will ask you to accompany us through your cursor, right? So at about 9 a.m. we started, right? And we started from a blank slate of the team was shocked to find out that the original agenda had entirely changed. So we started with zeroing in on target stakeholders. We completed that as solo workouts first, where the 30 of us went into the question of who do we need to serve? Is it the CEO? Is it the ex-com? Is it the 1 downs? Is it the employees? Who is our target stakeholder, right? So we did solo workouts of that. Miguel, if you could just follow with your cursor. Solo workouts. And then we did peer exchanges wherein each individual went to 2 or 3 other people and showed what their what their, in effect, their rapid prototypes were, no, for this answer, no, for their answers on who this target stakeholder is. And based on that, through several cycles of iteration, within an hour, we got to an iterated response, which is a consensus amongst all of us of who the target stakeholder was that we wanted to focus on as a team. Because we can't have two different stakeholders that we are trying to service and bang out a solution for. So that took us to zeroing in then from target stakeholder to for that target stakeholder, which we decided was the first three layers of corporate hierarchy, from CEO to Mancom to the one downs. No? And then we zeroed in on their target problems. No? And for this, at that point, we did not have the benefit, as you soon will have, as we now have, of a digital tool. So we were totally, and I will give you a sketch of the actual prototype that I did for my solo workout, no? In terms of what the layers were of the target stakeholders. You can see there stick figures. First layer, CEO. Second layer, the Mancom. Third layer, the different direct reports, right? And then we listed down, going into step 4, what the target problems were. And in our case, we zeroed in on three in particular, okay? You will see them sketched in the paper. The first, how do we, when life has been so disrupted, we're in a time of fear, panic, sometimes hysteria, and everyone overwhelmed, how do we refocus our leaders and their teams? First pain. Second pain, we said, okay, beyond refocusing them, how do we reorganize them? Because every one of them have been disrupted and afflicted, personally and professionally. How do we reorganize them? And then third, the utmost expression of the pain we wanted to solve, no? And you'll see it at the very bottom of the sheet. How do we help them bang out solutions in X days? So we got through this, again, in 2 hours. It resulted in us having a very delayed lunch. But we got through a target problem. And then we went through zeroing in on vision of impact. Miguel, can we open that up? Maybe the solo workout, if we could open that up, please. So in this stage, we did exactly this exercise again, first as individuals and then as teams. No? So for the 3 pain points that we said, we needed to now consolidate them into a delta statement, right? Mm-hmm. Referencing what changes for our target stakeholders. So these are from 2 statements. So for example, from feeling alone about the situation to feeling connected with kindred spirits that they share the same problem and seek the same solutions. Or another example, from having irregular income and jobs, obviously this is a stakeholder that has to do with more of the workers, not more of the daily wage earners, to enjoying regular income from stable jobs. So this is our way then of being very clear and focused about what problem we're going to solve and what outcome or vision of impact we desired, right? And we made sure that, if you can see the spectrum there, we made sure that we were targeting a delta statement whose impact on the target stakeholder was, of course, on the right-hand end. Very much, big impact, right? Okay, so from there, Miguel, if we could go back to the itinerary, please. All right. From there, as we regrouped from lunchtime, we started to ideate solutions. If you could click on that, Miguel. Again, the cadence is always allow the individual to ideate first, whether it's problem discovery or problem solving. Allow the individuals in the team to ideate first, and then do peer exchanges very quickly. And then iterate it down to a consensus response to do that. So ideating solutions, building prototypes, seeking evidence. We got through that in its first few iterations by 4 p.m. By 4 p.m., we broke up. It had been so intense by then. we decided, being in Tali with very nice sunshine, that we were going to go enjoy the pool first and do happy hour and take care of dinner. So that's what we did. By Thursday evening, we committed to a timeline for the initial launch sequence. We said that because of the pain points we had zeroed in on, that we need to get this solution out. We need to make this vision of impact come true within 10 days. Remember, Miguel?
Yes.
10 days, he said. So that was Thursday, no? Now comes Friday morning. This was already in the aftermath of the Duterte press conference, where we got a lot more details and it started to sink in. Overnight, it sunk into the team. By Friday morning, when we woke up, we did our first crucial iteration. We said, keeping this honest, mindful of the pain points of our target stakeholders. Basically, what did we say, Miguel?
Well, instead of 10 days, let's do it in 5 or in 3, actually.
Yes. Well, the real story, if you recall, Miguel, was I have a penchant for shocking the team. And so we went from 10 days, diba, to 5 days, I said. But then I tried to cheat, diba? I said Wednesday. That was a Friday. Wednesday, no? Which of course means 5 days. But that would have meant everyone works on the weekend, which everyone did. So that brought us to last Wednesday. And this microsite, we were able to launch it last Wednesday. However, the accompanying app, which you are now seeing in demoware version, we were not able to, because of technological glitches, launch that as we had planned on Wednesday. So today is when it is actually launching. So we are delayed. And as you will see, we will take you through the application again, step by step. This time, throwing it out to solving your problems. We will start crowdsourcing in a little bit. But you will see that as much as we pushed it, this is not yet ready for you to use in its entirety. We have, I would say, we need another 24 to 36 hours of fixing bugs before we release it to you. And here already is a very important lesson if we want, as leaders, to focus our teams and organize our teams on banging out solutions in 100 hours or less. In other words, fast. And that is, we cannot be lovers of perfection. Quite to the opposite extreme, we must be willing to release solutions to the market, to users, and you are users today. We're a bit embarrassed, and that's okay to release to you an imperfect solution. Hindi ba, Miguel?
Yes, definitely. I mean, if you think about it, we showed a PDF about 2 days ago, and that was like a very low fidelity version of it, but it was important for us to get it out there because we did get some feedback around it, which actually helped the build that you are looking at right now.
Yes.
So that's a point when you get things out, even if they look unfinished and unpolished, it actually naturally invites people to give you feedback. And in that same breath, as we're using this, we'd love to get your feedback also as well.
Okay, so for those of you who are taking notes, we have this application and the framework for you, but highly encourage you to take notes. So if you're taking notes, we just went through one of the first key takeaways, which is you want to launch things fast. You've got to be willing to launch things that are Miguel's words quite appropriately. And I learned this really from, we were practitioners of this, but when Miguel came in, Stanford guy and IDEO guy that he is, he gave us a lot of frameworks to actually reflect back to us what we had been practicing. No? And that notion is the notion of prototyping in stages of very low fidelity.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this was our first iterations of low fidelity. It starts on paper, no? To more and more versions iterated of higher and higher fidelity. So we went from paper sketches, and as you can see, turning that into prototypes. Last Tuesday, in the first installation of this Launchpad, we were actually showing not an application as you're seeing now, but as Miguel said, a PDF. So it's the low-fi to higher fidelity that allows us to get the iteration cycle going because of feedback from real users, which we would never have gotten if we are holding up in a cave trying to seek perfection. Okay? So with that said, Miguel, why don't we now take a 10-second pause as we segue. I'd like the screen to also segue to a front view, no? Let's take a 10-second pause. Now we will grow into the crowdsourcing version or segment of what we're going to do. And Miguel is going to get us started with stop number 3, crowdsourcing. Okay.
I load it up.
Yeah. So crowdsourcing in this case means we want to hear from you about your problems, because we will run your problems or your potential projects, 100-hour projects, through this framework.
Yeah, so let's go into the solo workout right now. Okay, so does anyone want to like answer it? I can fill it in for you.
In other words, so this is now our version of open forum. Who has target stakeholders in mind for their projects? And you will notice this is somewhat uncanny and counterintuitive, hindi ba, Miguel? Usually you will start with a problem, right? Most teams will start with a problem and then identify the stakeholder. Now, suspend your critique of our methodology for a while. Stay with us, okay? We will trust us on this, okay? For 100-hour type breakthroughs, we will start always with the human beings in mind, okay? So, floor is open. We're taking your ideas about who your target stakeholder is. Describe them. Just go ahead and unmute your mic, or if you'd like, type into the chat me, and then we will acknowledge you so you can speak. Go ahead.
Does anyone want to volunteer? Any stakeholders that you want to like maybe focus on just for this demo?
We're happy to pause here and give you some time to reflect on this. Give us a water break as well.
Hi, so I have one.
Yes, who is this, please?
Mandy.
Dandy, yes. Please, go ahead.
I am sharing the problem of a friend of mine who actually owns a retail company specifically dealing with clothes. So his problem is that because their brick and mortars have shut down, the seamstresses and the tailors don't have really anything to do right now. They're displaced essentially because of this crisis. So that's one of the stakeholders that he wants to address. What's going to happen to their mananahe.
Okay. So got it.
Workforce.
Yeah. In this case, so if you were to go in this case, how does he encounter them? Well, he encounters them daily because so we don't have to fill that up. But Miguel, there's a guide. There's a guide
I think
there.
specifically the workforce for, because these are daily wage.
Got it. Daily wage type of.
His workforce were actually on the admin side.
Yeah.
It's like choppy in my end. Sorry.
Sorry. So he's more concerned about these daily wage earners more than his employees who are the workforce who are admin. For actually, they still have maintained their work, but for those, ito mga mananahe, as I said, they're being paid daily. Eh.
Okay.
So these are the first ones.
So we can say, yeah.
Scroll down to show the audience some trigger thoughts. So the stakeholders usually come in, as customers, whether B2C or B2B, and or workforce. In this case, that's what Dandy is giving us as an example. No, you can also upload reference materials here to bring to life more what your work, what this target audience looks like. So you might upload a file of a video interview, etc. But okay, daily wage earners. We don't want to lock this down yet, no, because we're going to start working on a 100-hour sample project based on what we crowdsource. So do we have other? Thank you, Dandy.
Thank
you.
Do
we have other ideas? Other target stakeholders?
Hi.
Okay, go.
Yes. Do you mind introducing yourself when you do speak up, please?
Hi, this is Mina.
Yes. Carmina.
Carmina. Yeah. Can I just build on Dandy's idea? Because I think aside from the mananahe, the sales ladies are also daily wage earners, I think. So maybe they might also be included in.
Okay. All right. So again, still an internal. So the persona here might be exactly as Dandy had said. You might be the owner of a company, and the breakthrough solution you need to launch very quickly is how do you take care of these daily wage earners, no? Whether they're sales staff or mananahe. Anybody else? More problem?
Yeah, this is Chinny.
Go ahead, Shini.
Okay, so my target stakeholder would be working professionals, especially parents, shifting from office setup to work from home.
Okay, so what's that? Working professionals have
and parents in particular.
Okay.
Okay.
Have to shift. So so like this was one option a while ago.
Okay.
They have to shift.
Okay.
Yeah. So I probably I just want to comment here. It's good also just to be this descriptive when you fill this in. It just paints this clearer picture of who you're actually trying to solve for as well.
Yes, we're happy to hear more burning problems about your own stakeholders. Anybody else from the audience? Anybody who wants to bring up customers? Although let me say that was it Chini, the last one? Chini.
Yes.
Let me say that perspective of choosing as target stakeholder these working professionals, parents in particular, that can be the viewpoint of an employer or a senior management in a company, or that can be the perspective of a business owner who sells, whose customer base are working professionals. Hindi ba?
Yeah, you could put it that way too.
Were you advocating one perspective in particular or another? Is it as an employer? Are these workforce or customers? From your point of view.
This is for workforce, I think.
Okay, so you're taking on the hat of an employer.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Anybody with, it's interesting that the problems were, rather the target stakeholders that we're bringing up have so far been on the workforce side, no? As you can see the tag there. Anybody want to bring up customers? Customers as the target stakeholders, and if you could describe to us who these customers might be.
For me, I would like to give the example of customers who can't physically go to the stores.
Okay, that's very specific. Customers, is this so this is a retail store, right?
Yes.
What? I'm sorry, it's Sarah.
Yes,
Sarah.
sir. Yes, I'm Sarah.
Sarah, what sort of store is this? Is this a fashion store? Is this food store?
I'm thinking more specifically about the supermarkets, I guess, because I've read that they're not admitting senior citizens to go grocery shopping anymore.
Okay, all right. So customers who can't go to the supermarkets, especially senior citizens.
Yes,
You want
yes.
to be really descriptive, no?
Yes.
Senior citizens who can't. That's excellent. All right. Any more? Any more customers? Miguel, of course, you and I, in preparation for this, and as a matter of habit, you and I have been talking to our own networks, no?
Yes.
You came up with some interesting target stakeholders from your neck of the woods. You want to share it with the team?
Well, yes. Okay. So, well, basically,
By the way, sorry, I just called you guys team, no? So we're gonna be a team here. We're gonna go through this together, and we're gonna see how far we can go in terms of banging out this 100-hour Launchpad. So we're all a team right now. Miguel, go ahead.
all right. So, like I mentioned a while ago, I heard from a clothes retailer about how their business was really affected. So, from in terms of stakeholders, a big chunk really, let's say, given that the brand was it's a clothes brand, so they basically other customers have stopped buying their stuff, and because their online experience isn't that good, that hasn't really been helping them as well. So one stakeholder that I'd probably look into are maybe customers that want to shop but can't.
Okay.
All right.
Clearly for a fashion brand.
Yes. So
yeah.
In this case, how have we encountered them in meaningful ways, and why do we care about about solving their problems? A good chunk of this really is, what could we put here?
Can I chime in? Because
Okay, sure.
this is the problem that I raised earlier regarding the customers. I think what's really more important is that their needs are different now. Our
Okay.
customers, if before they want something, because they always go out, now they're not going out, their needs have changed. So how we encountered in meaningful ways, I think because essentially we are also experiencing that. I mean, the owner is also experiencing that as well. The problem that their products, the clothes that they said that they used to sell, are non-essential items in these times anymore.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks for that clarification. Ako naman, if you ask me for my target stakeholders, as the founder and CEO of Ignite, I am always very focused and always very obsessed on one and the same stakeholder. which is our clients, no? The big corporates, again, the CEOs who have to handle a workforce of several thousand people right now, and the management teams that report to them and that report to them and that report to them. And boy, what kind of days and weeks are they having and will continue to have? You can imagine all that array of pain points there. So I'm very obsessed about that target stakeholder, if you ask me. Can we swing back to the rest of the team, the rest of the audience? Anybody a brave soul who wants to share, as much as possible, we'd like to solve problems that are not academic problems or problems that we've read about. We want to hear from business owners who are really encountering issues right now and who their target stakeholders are. So,
Hi.
yes, Joanna.
This is Joanna. Yeah, this is Joanna.
Joanna is our managing partner for Ignite Peak Experiences. Go ahead, Joanna.
Yeah, my son and I have a startup studio. It's a production studio catering to vloggers, influencers, YouTubers, even comm students, film students, maybe. So it's just a startup. We're supposed to launch it next first week of April, maybe. So right now, we cannot actually launch it because they cannot go to the studio. The studio will supposed to give them a setup that will make them look professional. We have high-end equipment. We have a real nice backdrop and all, and we also want to have it. And we also want to offer them a team of video editors, audio editors, all the things that they would need for them to be able to launch a very professional looking video. So those are my stakeholders.
So the target stakeholder, if I can rephrase, Joanna, would be content creators, bloggers, influencers in particular.
Yes.
Who? So yeah, let's talk about. I mean, let's just keep it at that first. How have you encountered these people, Joanna?
Well, right now we have already a tie-up with a lot of. You're talking about bloggers and influencers. This one we're still strategizing on how to reach out to them. But when it comes to the students,
why do you care about why do you care about these people? I mean, there's so many people to care about. Why?
Okay.
Yeah.
Just like us, I have a heart for them in terms of being able to reach out to the audience in terms of giving meaningful and authentic messages so that they will be able to, so that people will not only recognize them, but they will be able to get their attention because the content and the quality of video that they are putting out there is something that's worth watching. Sometimes people, they don't really pay attention to these bloggers and influencers who are really who's really giving good content because their videos are substandard. So
okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right.
Anybody else from our audience team who wants to share their? Thank you for that, Joanna. By the way, so more along those lines of target stakeholders that we ourselves are encountering right now. Anybody? Floor is open. In a few more minutes, we are going to move on to the second step, which means we are going to have to select from what has been crowdsourced so far, one target stakeholder, and then we build the rest of the 100-hour methodology given that sample that we have chosen. So speak now or you must hold your peace for the rest of this webcast. Love to hear from more business owners and leaders about what their burning problems are and the stakeholders.
Hi. Hello.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Cherry.
Cherry Cole, welcome.
Yes, hi. We are a branding agency and we focus on retail and franchise. So right now all the malls are closed and so yeah, so that's our stakeholder.
Sorry, who's your stakeholder?
Owners of retail and franchises.
Okay, so these would be your customers, no?
Yes.
Okay. Owners of retail and franchisors who are based in malls in particular?
In malls, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, a majority are in malls.
Right. Okay. And could you tell us a little bit about how you, well, obviously they're your customers, no, your clients. How long have you been working with these types of stakeholders?
Maybe 10 years or more.
10 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've encountered them by the hundreds, probably.
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we would tag them in this case as Miguel. We would tag them as B2B.
B2B.
B2B. Well, they have like B2B.
Correct. You're a business selling to their business. To their
Okay.
right? Okay. So thank you, Cherry. This is wonderful. This sounds exciting. Anybody else? Throw us your problems. We love problems. Problems are my joy. Okay, so anybody else? I'm gonna count down. Going once, going twice.
Hi. Hello.
Kristen Mariano.
It's Stevie. Hello. Oops, sorry.
Go ahead, Kristen.
Okay, so our stakeholder would be breadwinners. Breadwinners who stand to lose their jobs due to the current situation with the coronavirus. So, do I need to elaborate?
Maybe yes. I was about to ask you, in fact, Kristen. Of course, I know the answer to this because I've looked at your company or this particular startup. Kristen's in many different businesses, but this particular startup, because the rest of our team, our audience, will probably take this as a target stakeholder for you as an employer, right? But that's not the case. So please explain to us how you're approaching this. Go ahead, Kristen.
Okay, so just a brief background to what our company is all about. So we're a referral-based recruitment. So instead of just having the employer posting jobs on the site and job seekers responding to those job ads by applying for those jobs, we intend to bridge to make the information about the jobs flow through social networks and reward those people in the process, the referrers. And so it's a long chain recruitment platform which benefits not only the job seeker in terms of getting a job and the employer in terms of getting the right candidate, but it also benefits the people who refer their friends, who recommend their friends for that position. So essentially, it's also taking care of underemployment, which means that these are people who are looking for alternative sources of income, which may be where our breadwinners will fall if they lose their jobs. So both in terms of the job seeker and the referrers. So does that help?
Yes, Miguel, that make sense for you?
Yep, it does.
So, very curious, Kristen. Tell us briefly why you care about solving their problems.
Well, in the first place, I think that in terms of the size, there are a lot of people, a lot of people who fall into this category of breadwinners who are anxious about what's going to happen to their source of livelihood. And
And personally, what's been your exposure to them?
my exposure to them is that a lot of the people whom we've interviewed and whom we've explained this concept to would like to use this platform as a way to get additional sources of income because their current, even before COVID, their current income is not enough to fuel their dreams. So it's about not just meeting the needs of their families, but they also have dreams. And so, but given that they don't know where to turn to, no, they don't know if they will go to MLM, they will still have to pay for the products. Some of them don't have the time for that. Some of them don't have the skills to go into Upwork for gig jobs. And so they're left with nothing to augment their income. And so this is the reason why we want to do this. It's not just to provide for jobs, but also to help these people find additional sources of income to be able to essentially reach their goals, their dreams in life. Because everybody has social capital, and so that's what we want to monetize.
I think that's actually a way of just encapsulating what this issue is all about. Because everyone has social capital. Basically, Kristen wants to turn all of us into recruiters, right? Because if I hear about this job opening, I probably know 5 people in my social network who might fit this, and why don't I have a tool to be able to refer them systematically and easily, and then get. So this is sort of the issue. I had one more or two more people. I don't want to shut the door. Like I said, I love problems. Anybody else that had a burning problem? Stevie, it's your turn.
Oh, yes. Hi everyone. My stakeholders are the unbanked. We have this NGO that lends out to micro entrepreneurs. Since December, we were struggling with shifting into social enterprise concept and impact investments. But because of the COVID-19 lockdown, I think our records are gonna hit an all-time low.
Okay.
But it's an opportunity for us to make the shift. So we're servicing around 400,000 client members. Most of them are female, and they're in the very size store businesses. Some farmers, fishermen. But what we did prior to the shift, we've invested in tourism and real estate projects, which is also heavily hit by the COVID-19. So our project is focused on how to address both at the same time. We were supposed to launch an payment app, ID system for the Association of Migrants, which is composed of 8.5 million members, stakeholders. So from there, all funding can course through that system. So, and it would be a numbers game by then. So any startup, any app that wants to derive its numbers can latch on. to the system. So that's what we were looking forward to. March, we were launching it with Smart Telecom as part owner. So yeah, so those are our stakeholders in the microfinance industry.
Stevie, because there are several stakeholders involved in the expansive project that we're talking about, could you help us enunciate again who finally your target stakeholder is, primary stakeholders among all the people? Stevie, yeah.
Specific microfinance members, you mean?
So your target stakeholders are the microfinance members who take loans from you.
Yes, yes.
Okay, who are typically farmers and fishermen.
Actually, sari-sari store owners.
Great.
Okay.
And sari-sari store owner. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're working with Tito Tony Meloto in creating social contracts for subdivisions to be supplied by grocery items. So that's a discussion prior to the COVID-19
Steve,
lockdown. So
Steve, let's stop. Let's stop here for a while. We just want to understand at this point the target stakeholder. So thanks, Steve. Okay, so let's cut it off here, and I will get Miguel. Let's give Miguel Aranaz the blanket authority to pick and choose. Miguel, you pick one.
Can I run through the? So yeah, so there was Stevie. Then there's the one of Kristen were the breadwinners. Okay.
Yeah. Then the mall retailers.
Retailers.
Yeah, mall retailers. Mall-based. And then there were mga daily wage earners.
Yes, daily wage earners. The vlog also.
Yeah, the vloggers. Okay.
Okay, so.
Well, this is not a democracy at this point, Miguel. You're going to choose who our case study is going to be. Just remember, we love problems. Huh? So the bigger the problem, the better. Go ahead. Drum roll, please.
Let's stick with the sari-sari store owners, with the microfinancing.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I've just for the sake of just running everyone through this, that could be something we can focus on.
Sige, ladies and gents, so no offense, we're just, again, this is, I mean, all those problems and stakeholders were fascinating. We just needed to find something for purposes of moving on with this 100H exercise that can be the focal point of our group experience now, our group learning. Okay, so shall we move on? Stevie, you're now going to have to make sure that you're always on because you're going to be a primary resource here. Although I would like to encourage everyone to be active participants, active thinkers, and problem solvers and problem discoverers with us. All right.
Sure.
Can we go to the next step? May we ask everybody else to mute their mics besides Stevie, myself, and Miguel. Whenever you want to speak, actually, Stevie, you could mute your mic as well for now. Anytime anybody wants to speak, just unmute your mic and go ahead and speak, okay? We're very informal in Ignite, no? So relax. Miguel, can we go back to the itinerary then?
Okay, all right.
Okay. In the next one, let's demo the peer exchange naman.
Yeah.
Kasi we only demoed the So if we could go into stop 4, we just completed stop 3. Step 4 now is zeroing in on the key pain points of our target stakeholders. No, so sari-sari owners in this time of COVID, no, you can imagine they have so many problems. They have so many pain points. Now we as problem solvers need to understand which of these problems we want to focus on, and that's a function of two things in our book, in our methodology. No, describing and focusing on zeroing in on the key pain points is a function of two things. First, it has to take off from what we are capable of solving, right? So when we look at our teams, we need to understand what are our particular assets, resources, and gifts. Okay, and we pick problems that, of course, that are addressable by our resource base. Number one. Number two, we cross-reference our resources and our assets and our strengths with our compassions. We have to, the problems and the pains we decide to solve, and especially if we want to solve it against all odds in 100 hours or less, in other words, fast, we have to really care about them. My team cared about the problem that we were solved. So from Pali, we went home in a time of COVID and lockdown, and people worked without question, without complaint, for 5 straight days because we care about the pain. No? So when we zero in on key pain points, those are the two things we need to keep in mind. No? So Miguel, at this point, we have set up accounts, or we've invited to this particular project 4 other people, right?
Yes.
From our audience that we pre-set up. Who are these? If you could identify yourself, please. Who are going to participate here so we can simulate with you. Miguel, if you could call out their names.
Yeah, so that would be Dandy.
Dandy, first names, complete.
Oh.
Who?
Hello. Yeah, so that would be Dandy, Alandi, Chini Wang, Mina Mones, and Sarah Bangayan. So we set up accounts for you guys, basically just to see how this works in terms of the like team setting.
Okay. So what we'd like to do right now is, because we are, as you can see from Miguel's header, if you could move the cursor, please, we are at the solo workout portion. No? So right now, for solo workout, it's very simple. We all have to keep quiet and allow each of us to think through this. And in the 100-hour sense, we're now going to give each other 3 minutes. Can we get a timer, please, going? We're going to give ourselves 3 minutes from the time I say go. And each one of us will think about this. Those who are on the app, the 5 of you with Miguel, you can go ahead and write down. And then after 5 minutes, we will do our peer exchange. So that's 3 minutes. Again, keep in mind that none of this is about perfection. It's about getting the process going and getting ourselves into a point where we can rapidly exchange and build on each other. That is one of the primary secrets to velocity and launching things fast. Okay, ready, set, go. 3 minutes. Some music, please. So again, the target stakeholder here are the sari-sari stores in a time of COVID. What are their primary pain points?
We should probably have Steve answer this for us. Steve, I mean?
No.
No, for this one?
Well, Stevie will answer his own. We can give...
Yes.
Right? So you answer your own, and we'll hear from each other. 3 minutes. Is time up? How much time do we have left? Time is up. All right. Okay, are we ready? Can we switch back to screen sharing? So who wants to get started with their ideas? Well, Miguel, I want to share some insights of mine, and you tell me if I'm wrong. If you're a sari-sari store owner these days, I would say that your pain points are probably a bit different from many other people's pain points. Because why? People are on lockdown. The most they can do is the nearest local places, right? So if anything, I would think that the pain of sari-sari stores right now is a very happy pain because everyone's flocking to them because nobody can go farther, di ba? The typical customer would have to flock to them, and their problem, therefore, is going to be inventory. They're going to run out of goods. It's like the same problems of Amazon right now is supply chain. They have so much demand, they can't supply enough of it. The same problems right now of a Unilab or any other pharma company, where there's so much demand for vitamins and other immuno boosters. But again, supply chain because of the interruption. No? So that's, if I were to put a pain point, that would be, I know, for example, that Stevie is not in the business of looking after supply chain. You're financing. If anything, Stevie, I would think that you're financing, microfinancing business. Because if I'm a sari-sari store owner, I would borrow from you because I know that there's going to be demand for my products, and I would borrow from you, Stevie, so that I can be more aggressive in sourcing inventory. Now, in breakthrough solutions, we have to be very expansive about boundaries that we set for our business. So a guy like Stevie has always thought of himself as in the microfinancing business. You really want to be relevant to your customers, you have to be willing to go where their pains are. Just a thought. So we're gonna revert to Stevie, of course, no? But right now we want to show you the peer review, the peer exchange dynamic of the app. So bear in mind that Miguel Aranaz, for example, CW, Chini Wang, can we scroll down, next please? Carmina, Giselle Mones, etc. All of them worked on these as solo workouts. And then real time, if you click on the peer exchange view, you don't see, you then see, and you're able to build on ideas from others. So as we can see from Miguel, they don't have spare funds to buy more inventory. Ako naman, probably they do have funds, but again, the problem in common between Miguel and I is inventory, no? Which is going to be in high demand because people cannot read. Procuring items to sell, same thing with Chini. No access to finances that will fund their sari-sari store, no access to grocery stores and other suppliers. Again, inventory, supply. Who else? That's it.
That's it, yeah.
Did you have any back and forth? So people can now comment on each other's and start building on each other's ideas. Therefore, allowing each member of the team as an individual to keep rapidly and in real time refining their own thinking. No? So this is, you can see the collaborative dynamic here happening real time. And one other aspect that we should really have you take note of is, remember, we forced a time limit to this. We didn't say, give us a date to think about this so that we can come to perfection. No? Just think quickly. So maybe we can now revert to Stevie. Stevie, you could turn on your mic and give us your thoughts about this.
Yeah, those answers are quite accurate, and that's where we were trying to push the stakeholders into, wherein they, as a group, collectively, they have a huge buying power. So if we have a somewhat like a white knight investor that's into logistics, or we can create our we can get for them wholesale prices as they order using tech or any startup that's out there.
Right. So right off the bat, Stevie, as we're going through this, I have at least 2 to 3 people that I want you to talk to who are in various stages or various parts of the value chain that you're talking about, whether as investors or as logistics or as people who cater to sari-sari stores in particular in their wholesale buying requirements. In fact, one of them I just met with 10 days ago or so. Okay, so we have consensus here towards an iterative response. Miguel?
Okay, so I guess, yeah, so here basically you'll notice that we clicked a button just to show that we actually read the responses of our group mates, of our group members. So from there, when you mark it as read, it's really just there to show that you've read what they've written and you can actually give feedback on it. So let me go down to, okay, so the next step is to pick, okay, which direction-wise, what's something that you can probably, explore. So let's say in this case,
sorry, Miguel. May I ask everybody else to mute their mic for now? We're hearing ambient noise, please. Thank you. Go ahead, Miguel.
All right. So for example, here, Dandy's answer seems pretty good. So if we click iterated, it actually tags it for the next step, which is basically, what do you call this? The iterated response. So in this case, the tagged response now becomes a reference point for the other project owner to make a decision on, like, okay, which pain point in this case should we focus on. Over here, we didn't tag anything as an iterated response, or even here, but just to give you an idea of how it flows. From here, based on what Dandy wrote, and based on the feedback we got from the other group members, how would you change, this statement to make it fit better to what to where you're being led by the data?
I think if I may act as a synthesis here now, The common thread is, in terms of pain point, is there's demand for their goods because of the community quarantine. People can't go out. So there's demand for their goods. So the pain point is, how do they keep inventory levels up to speed so that they can keep satisfying the demand, which we anticipate would increase.
Okay.
So keeping inventory levels up so that to keep up with demand.
Okay.
Let's give final say to Stevie. Stevie, is this okay, or did we miss anything? I think that might be Stevie's way of saying we're okay. I just want to point out, Stevie, button anytime. I just want to point out that before we did the iterated response. Yes, go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, Stevie.
Oh, I was turning off my mic.
Yeah, you're now on.
Sorry.
I think you might be having connection issues, Stevie.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, I was turning off my mic.
Okay, you're now on. Go ahead.
I wasn't gonna say anything. Sorry. I was
okay.
just turning off.
Okay, say yes. So I just want to point out that Miguel, we did skip a step here in our demo. Is go back to plenary exchange.
Yes.
Yeah, under peer exchange, once we have done the real-time reading of and commenting on each other's views, we go to the plenary exchange, which we highly encourage, where instead of just reading and commenting via written methods, where we actually do exchanges. So when we went through our rapid prototyping cycles, are really in tally. After each solo workout, we actually did peer reviews and peer exchanges and plenary exchanges, of course, face-to-face, no, in rapid cycles, until we were satisfied that we had distilled through our collaborative efforts into a consensus and clarity about what the iterated response is, which in this case, if we could go back to it, we boiled down to a simple phrase, which says, keeping inventory levels up in order to satisfy demand. So at this point, Miguel, we are ready to go to.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the iterated response. Finally.
Keeping inventory levels up.
I thought we had already written that.
I didn't save it because I went to the other page.
I see. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, I don't want to apologize for this because, again, this is part and parcel. You can see how clunky the user flow is as of this point. No, using this now with you and getting your feedback subsequent from this session will allow us to take our imperfections and our mistakes here, no, and improve them so that next Tuesday in the next 100-hour Launchpad, you see already an iterated, improved version of this. It certainly beats us trying to seek perfection in our own laboratories, trying to work this by ourselves. No? So we release often, we release fast, so we get feedback loops. No?
Yeah,
so
I just point out, you can see over here in the yellow band, it says you should discuss with your teammates first before answering this. So there's a basic trigger here in the end that says if you should check it if you're able to do plenary exchange, because through then that allows you now to move to the next step. If you don't do it, you'll keep on getting that prompt. So we're really trying to push you to make sure that aside from just reading what your group members wrote, you can actually discuss it with them so that you can come up with a consensus answer.
So this methodology, which in a sense we're forcing into your own methods. It's about developing the right disciplines. No, it also mirrors, Miguel. I'd like to point out best practice methodologies globally in online learning, where even professors from Yale, Harvard, MIT, Stanford, they give the material in advance for people to read or write about by themselves or even in online peer exchanges, so that when they actually appear in the classroom, the focal point of the experience becomes a higher level, more intelligent exchange in person, which is what we're trying to simulate here. So first you do the solo workout by yourself, then you do peer exchanges, real time, and then by the time you do the plenary exchange using Zoom or Google Meets like this, the quality of your conversation and your exchange is already at a much higher level because you've processed and exchanged already. Okay? So now we are, hey guys, stop us at any time if you have questions or other ideas. So now we are able to move on into step 5. Vision of impact.
Give me 1 second. I just spilled some water in my laptop. Just give me a second.
Guys, this is a good time. If you have any questions or comments, if you like something or if you do not like something, you find it counter to your own experience, we'd love to hear your ideas. As in that.
Question there, Andre?
Sorry?
There's a question in the chat.
Okay, go ahead. Well, please read it. How do you deal with conflicting ideas during peer exchange or plenary session? How do you deal with conflicting ideas? Well, we have this all the time, no, Rob? Conflict is great. Conflict means there are multiple viewpoints being expressed. Ultimately, the practical answer is you air out and listen with respect to each viewpoint. You argue it out, you wrestle with each other. This is a hallmark of a team of teams that can bang out projects quickly. Now, nobody takes things personally. Everything is about merit and quality of idea. And you exchange, you wrestle with each other. But at some point, when time is up, because all of these are time bound, no? So that's another rudimentary aspect of the 100-hour discipline. Everything is time bound. You don't allow yourself to come to perfection or perfect consensus. No? When time is up, you need to arrive at a consensus, at a decision. And if that can be done democratically, which is not always what I personally advocate, right? You can't put things to a vote. So ultimately, there is a project leader. And the project leader, having heard the exchanges, the solo workouts, ultimately, the project leader must make a call so that we can move on to the next step. So bear in mind, in my personal view, democracy is not good. You do not put these things to a vote. It must come down, the buck stops with me if I'm the project leader. I listen to all of you, and this has been my own personal experience. I listen to everybody, I listen to the exchanges, we go wrestling, the best viewpoint wins. We take that, we move on. Does that answer your question, Rob? Unless we hear from Rob again, yes, thank you. All right, any other questions? That was a great question. Very much foundational to moving things out in 100 hours or less. Decision making, time-bound cycles of iteration, and so on. All within the parameters of being respectful. No, if you want to bang solutions out in 100 hours or less, everyone in the team should put their egos aside and be so passionately committed to banging it out that if they see that there is a superior answer out there, they will go for it. No, and that is one of the reasons why we start with the target stakeholder, and we really zero in on why we care about this, because it is our compassion and passion for this stakeholder, for this human being, that will allow us to put egos aside, and say, yours is the best out of all the answers. Let's go with yours, or let's take a little bit from there, and let's Okay, so very, very important.
There's another question here, Andre.
Another question?
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
Millie, it's what kind of simple, efficient pre-work would you suggest to come up with good user stories? How many people from the target market would you usually talk to, and if ever, how?
Well, that is Miguel Arenas' expertise. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, okay. So, specifically to remote user work, a little trick I used to do even before this whole like lockdown situation. I would really be if I know I need to talk to a user, I would probably ask them to send me maybe photos of the place that they work in, or something or maybe if, let's say, it's a retailer, a photo of their store, a photo of the environment around the store. That's a very simple way to get some context on like what exactly you will be talking about versus just going out there and calling that person without any context. So a tip I would give is that when you have to talk to someone remotely, look for ways to get context even before you have that conversation with them. It just helps in the whole in the quality of the user stories that you get. In terms of the number of people you talk to, there's a Reuters study that says that 5 to 6 people is actually a good number already. Only because the goal really is to get some sort of feedback and like data and like insights from these conversations, and then being able to turn these insights into a problem statement that would lead to a prototype that from there you can get more feedback on, and it creates this cyclical process of creating a prototype, getting feedback from it, and constantly having conversations with your different users. In terms of short customer interviews, you always want to go deep when you have a customer interview. So
Sorry, I just want to do a little course correction. In our methodology, it's not always the customer; it's the stakeholder. So it's sometimes the stakeholder is the customer, sometimes the stakeholder is your employee, right? So it's the problem. So we have a broader view here. So go ahead, Miguel. Sorry.
Yeah. So in terms of the time, if you plan to go well, you should go deep in your conversation. So at least probably 30 minutes to about an hour and a half.
So Miguel, in the context of the sari-sari stores situation we're talking about here, how would you outline or sketch a methodology for doing customer stories? How many of them, in what context, blah, blah, blah? We're all fine, no?
Yeah, I'd probably try to identify maybe 3, maybe like a sari-sari store owner, a sari-sari store customer, somebody that maybe supplies a sari-sari store. But like I'd find a balance. Maybe I'd interview 3 owners, 2 customers, and one supplier. That's probably how I'd split that up. Of course, I'd have to do it maybe over Facebook or FaceTime, just given the situation. So in order to do that, you want to understand again context. So I'd probably ask like the sari-sari store for, they send me some photos of your store, send me the photos of some of the people that go to your store, and then before you have that conversation with them online, you already prep a bunch of questions that are, I guess, trying to understand maybe why is their store set up that way, or what are these conditions around you, and really see where that conversation will lead. Yeah.
Okay. So
I didn't help, Millie.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for that question.
Thank you
So,
for that question.
in the interest of moving on, no? It is already 11:30, so 35. So we'd like to at least complete our problem discovery phase, which is top number 5 for this session. So let's move on. We talked about the iterated response, Miguel, from the last one. Is
Let me go back.
invent. So back to the itinerary. So the iterated response we ended up with is keeping inventory levels up to keep up with demand. So now in the next stop, which Miguel will lead us through, we translate this into a delta statement, which will give us clarity of the from to situation. No? So this is what we call target vision of impact. From where they are currently to where we want them to be in terms of our vision. And that now becomes our target for the rest of the steps. How do you make this delta statement come true? That becomes problem solving and innovation.
Yes.
Shall we?
Let's take a stab at it.
Okay, so if you could scroll up a little bit.
Okay.
We're gonna cheat a little bit. Scroll up, Miguel, not down. Up, please.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna cheat a little bit. If we were following this methodology IRL in real life, we would be doing solo workouts again, which means those of us will go back to our respective apps. We will keep quiet and we will give ourselves 5, 10, 15 minutes to think through this delta statement. And then we do the peer exchange, right? Compare notes again before we get into an iterated response. So for now, we will do some. Why don't we allow people to do let's say 90 seconds timer at my go. So come up with a from statement that describes the problem right now, and the to statement, which okay. So can we give 90 seconds for each of us to do that? Thank you.
Okay, time's up.
All right, so Miguel, you want to show our screens again?
Yes. So, oh,
If anybody feels very strongly about their delta statements, their two from statements, please type it in on your chat room or speak up. We'd love to hear it. Okay, so Miguel, take us through what you have.
yeah. So based on the peer exchange, these are what everyone submitted. So me, I said they're from trying to keep inventory levels up to meet sari-sari store customer demands to always being well stocked regardless of customer demand. Sarah over here shared from struggling with the limited amount of store stocks to having the freedom to stock up inventory. Dandy from sari-sari store owners not being able to keep up with the demand to them being able to service the communities well enough during this time of crisis, not worrying about insufficient inventory. Sheeny, from lacking sources of stocks to the point of closing up shop to being able to continue business as usual in time of COVID.
Okay, so I think what we can see here is they're all converging on the same, more or less, iba-iba lang yung words, but
Yes.
the idea is the same, no?
Mhm.
I gave it a more specific spin, if I may read out my delta statement. From running out of stock every day and having multiple days of customers not returning because I'm always out of stock, to having a full suite solution end to end. Kasi remember, I'm a sari-sari store owner, no? So I want a full suite solution from financing to ordering to purchasing to delivery and logistics that keeps me always able to serve demand. So basically the same thing as what they all said, except I enunciated the particular steps that have to have solutions. So something has to tell me in advance, I don't know, 5 days in advance, whatever the logistics chain is saying, that I need to order this, this, and that already. I need to have financing to actually do that. I need to be able to place the orders, and they need to get delivered to me so that I'm stocked up. I mean, those are really the elements. No. Anybody else have anything to add, or that might be different from our delta statement? At this point, I'd like to recognize a question from Donna.
Mhm.
Is it in the chat room?
Yes. Mhm.
Well, then go ahead, please. What? Actually, okay, we'll do it in order. What, Millie De Luna, what kind of simple, efficient pre-work would you suggest to come? No, that was red, sorry.
That's already.
Donna Lea Mayuga, what if you're in the service business and because of this COVID-19, business people and even employees are affected, that investing would be the least of their priorities, but instead gain back the loss? What things do you think in sales or service people, such as life insurance people, can do to convince? I see. Donna, we'd love to address your question. That's kind of outside the current scope of our track. So allow us, for the benefit of the rest of our audience, to complete this track, and then we'll circle back to you if you'd like to stay afterwards, no? Is that okay, Donna? Anybody else with a delta statement, a from to statement that they'd like to add, because it adds something to what we already have thrown out here? Okay, if not,
I have one. Joanna.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's from lacking funds to be very liquid to sustain my daily OPEX to buy new stocks. It's essentially the same thing, Joanna. Anybody have something different to add? Okay.
I want to add something.
Okay.
This is Dandy. I think so. Aside from being able to restock easily, maybe sari-sari stores can also find a way to service their communities better. Especially since a lot of people don't want to go out. how can they service those people?
Okay, so fantastic, Dandy, no? Because you just pushed us to a bigger vision. Basically, what we're saying here, what I gathered from Dandy, is that if you're a sari-sari store owner, all of a sudden, in these times of enhanced community quarantine, you become some sort of focal point for the community to, kasi the physical goods pa rin yan eh, di ba? So you become a flashpoint in a way for the community to come up with it, to accumulate complaints, di ba? To observe complaints or problems, and then you could then become not just a sari-sari store, but maybe you might have an expanded version and role in your community that drives even more people to come to you more frequently, not just for canned goods or bigas or sabon, but maybe for something else, di ba? For example, one thing you might want to do in this time of COVID as a sari-sari store is, ang dami rin dyan nagsistay at home lang, why don't you start a delivery service, no? Etc., etc. But this vision of impact allows us then to be very clear about what problem we're going to solve, what's going to be different, and how it's going to be benefiting our target stakeholder, no? So at this point, from a process and method perspective, Miguel, if you can help us back, we're going to go then back to the next step of the process, which is do a plenary exchange. We suggest here tools, no? From the plenary exchange, we save it, and then we go to the next step, which is the iterated response, wherein the group needs to come to a consensus about what the final from to delta statement is. And again, going back to Rob's question, if there's a stalemate, the leader needs to make a decision. Having heard everybody, no, and having gone through the plenary exchange, ultimately the leader has to make a decision. And then the group goes on. No? Now, we are, okay, and then that leads us back to the itinerary. Okay. We are now done with step 5. And now we are ready to go. We have completed problem discovery. Now we are ready to jump into stops 6 to 10, which is problem solving now. Okay, so very quickly, Miguel, we can't dive into each of the layers, but maybe you can take us through a quick tour of what of the stops 6 to 10 in terms of problem solving, which we can dive into the next time, the next session. Go ahead, Miguel. We can't hear you, Miguel. Your mic is muted. There you go.
Okay, sorry, yeah. So, well, at this stage for like ideating solutions, your from to statement would actually come out. It should come out here. What's going to happen here basically is to try and generate as much ideas as possible in 15 minutes. So from there, you'll actually pick your top 3 and you will enter it here into the fields. So you will be able to headline and describe it. So for example, if it's a sari-sari store inventory suite, so let's just say if that's the solution, you'd put a description so it helps them manage the sari-sari store. Oops. Inventory. Okay, so you might want to upload a file, maybe a sketch that you made, or maybe something similar in the market, just to help people appreciate that. So you do that for your top 3 solutions, and when you save it, okay, this becomes now what you're showing at the peer exchange level. So again, it's still the same cadence. You do a solo workout, you're sharing it with people, you want to get their feedback from it. You do plenary exchange. When you're done with that, okay, the goal here now is to, from those top 3, after you see everyone else's ideas, okay, you basically have to pick one, all right? So you'll pick one, you'll probably improve it a bit, okay? And from there, now that you have a picked idea, you go now to the next step, which is all about building prototypes. So building prototypes is really about making that solution tangible. In this case, making it tangible in the sense that if it's something that you build, it's something you can share online. If you're creating an app, maybe there's a way to use some prototyping tools to share it online. There are different ways that you can approach this, but the ideal when you're building prototypes is really to keep it rough, rapid, and like reasonable. We'll talk about that more during our next session. So after you have the prototype, actually, let me just go straight to the itinerary. It's easier to explain. So after you build a prototype, again, it's the same cadence. You now have to get feedback from it. So you start showing it to some stakeholders and see, okay, how exactly, how do they feel about it? If you look at our format, we specifically ask around, what works for them, what needs to be improved, what suggestions can they give to make it better, and why. It's important to ask why when you're getting feedback, because it gives us a deeper understanding of why they're saying these things. So again, you can enter all of this here. You can enter all these data. From there, we go now into testing the viability. So after you've done some data collection, we want now to test how viable is it in the market. So we have 4 viabilities here in the Ignite that we look into: the solutions viability, user viability, operations viability, and financial viability. Again, we'll get into that during the next session. I guess just one important thing to take note over here in stop 9. The iterated response really is to, okay, based on all the data you've gathered from seeking evidence, from testing around the 4 viabilities, we kind of want to look and see what should be our next steps. Now, sometimes when you're working on something, you realize that you need a better vision of impact. Maybe your first vision of impact was very surface level, so we can actually you have these options to pick from. So should I go back to stop 3, which is really to talk to more people again and see if that will change the vision of impact? Should we, maybe our vision of impact is good, but the ideas aren't. So maybe we should brainstorm for new ideas. So as you actually click on these, there's an error over here, but like as you click on this, it will lead back to the next step that you need to go to. Why is this important? One thing you have to realize is that this is a cyclical process, that as you're gathering data, we hope to guide you back to where you should be going. In the end, we want you to be able to prep this for launch, and which leads us, like, if I click this, forward to stop 10, it goes now to the last stop, wherein you try to create a launch material based on your solution. Again, this launch material also acts as a prototype that you will be sharing. It goes through peer exchange as well. And in the end, you try to improve what you're actually building in terms of launch material, because this is a way for us to test things like tonality, the way we're calling it. If you put some images, you get to test things like, does this communicate what you want to communicate? So from a launching standpoint, these are the interventions that we have to pay attention to. Again, at a very MVP level. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. Again, this is something we've stressed all throughout, but it doesn't have to be perfect. But just by getting it out again to people, seeing some form of it, it allows us to get feedback and really improve this. And from there, hopefully you get to do all of this in less than 100 hours. Like you get from where we were initially. Zeroing in on the target stakeholder, and in 100 hours, you should be able to launch something to
So
your stakeholders and market.
I'd like to throw in a couple of things. In the initiating launch sequence, whereas the template that we're using is a marketing material, no? It's launch material. All of that is just a launch pad for all the other business operations that need to come through in order for that marketing material to be
Yes.
delivered, no? So it doesn't mean that launch sequence is marketing sequence. It just means that we start now having built the product, a solution for the stakeholder, for the target stakeholder. We need now to codify that and crystallize that into a clear communication with the target stakeholder. And once we establish that it's the right timpla, it's the right proposition for them, then we need to go into the back end of making that launch come through. What needs to be operationally there? What needs to be technologically there, etc. As a launch sequence. I think a couple of other points. You saw how the cadence from stops 3 to 10 was always there. Solo workout, peer exchange, iterated response. And then the element of the time constraint. What we're forcing ourselves to do is go through each of these stops. Within each stop, go through the cadence of solo workout, peer exchange, iterated response. Everyone very intensely focused under time constraints, and use that discipline to keep pushing us forward in such a way that we are what you call building to learn. We keep on building, we keep on throwing things out there, and what we throw out there gives us feedback in order to go the next cycle and keep on iterating quickly. Build to learn is in opposite contrast to learning in order to build. Most corporations, big companies in particular, and even individuals, the tendency is to accumulate learning first. In other words, learning theoretically or learning within your bat cave or your laboratory, and then building it, and then you overbuild too much before you get it out to the market or to some kind of user, only to get feedback that you got it all wrong. No? So that's another point. The last thing we'd like to point out, as it's already 10, how much time we have? 10:58, 11:58, is if you notice, we spent a lot of time on problem discovery. No? And we started it, like I told you guys, to trust us on the human being. Not the problem yet, but the human being. What we call the target stakeholder. No? The reason here is because this is not easy work. You're going to get a lot of things wrong. So one of the things we'd like you to get right so that we get a lot of other things less wrong is that we've got to be targeting the right people who mean something to us, who we care about, right? That will keep us gritty, resilient, focused towards getting to a finish line. And then really understanding what their pains are, what their problems are, and then being able to clearly enunciate that as a vision of impact from to, which now drives the problem-solving process. So this is very, very intense. As the past 2 hours has been, I don't know for you, but for Miguel and I, it's been intense, and that's the way we like it. Launching breakthrough solutions in 100 hours is not for the faint of heart. It's for people who really want to be on top of their games and want to stay relevant to their stakeholders. It's about impact, really. On that note, Miguel and I, before we say our parting words, would like to thank all of you. We will stick around for 5-10 minutes, and beyond that, if we could provide mechanisms, PJ, for them to contact us. We are happy to take your questions, including there was a leftover question a while ago. We can circle back to that, Miguel.
Yeah.
So on that note, I want to thank you. My name again is Andrea. I'm the founder and CEO of Ignite House. Go ahead, Miguel.
I want to thank all of you also for like sticking through this with us. It was really fun. I'd love to hear from you though in terms of like what you think of the, I mean, of everything we showed you today. Also, so if you want to reach out to us, feel free. Hopefully, we'll get some of you to use the application soon again, soon as well, and we'd love to get your feedback from using that.
A word on the app since Miguel brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
So it is accessible. We will give you the links by which to access it. Again, tread with caution. It is still buggy, but if you at least dive into it, it will get your mind accustomed to how the app works, so that when in 24 to 36 hours we do release the first beta version, you can be one of the first users. Okay, so at this point, this ends. Thank you. This ends our session. We don't mind if you leave already. You're welcome to stay. We will now address the question of
Donna.
Donna, yes, if she's still around. At this point, I need Donna to acknowledge if she is still around, in which case we are happy to respond to her question.
Yep, she is.
She is. Donna's here. Okay, Donna, we're gonna go to your question. Miguel, what if you are in the service business and because of this COVID-19, business people and even employees are affected, that investing would be the least of their priorities, okay. But instead, they want to gain back the loss. What things do you think can sales or service people, such as life insurance people, can do to convince people investing and do business online? It's kind of different doing it face-to-face or as compared to doing it online. What other options do salespeople have? So I suppose this is the particular perspective of an insurance sales agent, no, who is used to going face to face. If you are to follow our methodology, I guess you would start with clarifying who your stakeholder is. In this case, it would be the person who is buying insurance. So you need to be clearer about that. Are these typically heads of households, heads of families? Are they professionals? How old are they? No. So in terms of that, clarifying your stakeholders, then you go through the next step, which is, okay, what's bugging these people? Obviously, what's bugging these people right now isn't just insurance. So if you want to sell more insurance, you'd have to have a door open for you that is not about insurance. Tama ba, Miguel? Makes sense?
Yep.
Diba? So you have to find another door by which they will even give you their time, no? So you really need to go through a sort of an audit or an inventory, aided by interviews with some of your maybe preferred clients, friendly clients. You know, what's bugging you right now? But the good news here is we're all going through this together. So it's no secret what's bugging people right now. Security of their work, their incomes, the safety of their family from this pandemic, etc., etc. So going through those steps, Donna, you would then need to decide which pain points you are equipped to address. And then you develop some sort of solution, having expressed it in a from to statement. No, okay, so let's say my target stakeholder is a 35-year-old professional. Usually it's the women who buy insurance, tama ba? Let's just assume that. Let's make that up. It's a 35-year-old mother and wife who is a professional banker, right? So what's bugging her right now? You list your top 3 concerns, you put that into a Delta statement, and then you have to come up with some sort of solution besides insurance that allows you to walk into their door and become relevant in their lives, di ba? So that might be, you do research on how to stay relevant to them in terms of homeschooling. You're not in homeschooling business, but you are in insurance. But you can tell them, hey ma'am, alam ko yung mga problema niyo nowadays. Meron akong mga na-accumulate na materials and best practices on how to keep your kids. So you use that as a way to get into their lives where they are having the most pain. And then I would think that gives you their attention, their trust, their goodwill, which gives you a better chance to now tell your story about what it is that you are selling to them. Would be my kind of thinking about this. I don't know, Miguel, if you have other thoughts.
Well, me, I'd probably, if once I've identified that from to statement, I'd probably add some constraints as I'm brainstorming. For example, I'd probably simply say all the solutions I think of will probably have to be done online. So just putting that constraint to what you think of actually helps stretch the other possibilities you can come up with. So that's a very simple way to see what your other options could be. That's one way. I'd probably use some sort of analogous situation in the sense that's something we can have a conversation about some other time. But like looking at how people in other industries are dealing with this, even if it's not related to your industry, but seeing, I mean, at the very heart of what they're doing, what can you learn from that, and then see, how can you probably apply that to the work that you're doing as well.
Okay, so at this point, Miguel and I are ready to call this a session. Again, if you look through the chat box, there are contact information. We'd love to hear from you, whether it's questions, ideas you have, or certainly feedback, what you liked, what you didn't like. I'm particularly happy to receive insights about what you didn't like, because that pushes us to improve. Having said that, as we say goodbye, I would like to return now. Keng, if you could help us with the screen capture of the aggregate data. We're going to do a screen capture of the aggregate data from the initial 4 growth streams. I'm actually curious to see this. Okay.
$30.
Okay, give us 30 seconds. We're bringing up the screenshot of the aggregate data. Anybody else have anything to say while we're... Oh, Stevie, you're still here. I know. We give you a solution. Okay. So for the 40 or so participants that were on and off with us, the aggregate score across the 4 growth streams was 35% out of 100, obviously, wherein their capabilities for GX, problem discovery, which we did a lot of today, was only at 1 out of 4, 25%. And their ability to do innovation, problem solving, is closer to 50%. So that's our group data for now. Okay, so on this note, we are ready to say goodbye. Miguel, your parting words?
Well, we'd love to hear your feedback. That's really important to me. All right.
Goodbye and thank you, and see you in the next 100-hour Launchpad, which will be Tuesday next week. We're going back to our usual 10:30 a.m. launch.
Yes, it will be a 1-hour session.